Hello, Bristol. Aaron Lopez here with Talking Bristol. Here to have a conversation. Joining me, David Fortier.
How you doing, Aaron?
We're doing good. Another week. We survived another week.
Another week is right. We did it.
You know, the weird thing about it is today, or actually yesterday, I was talking to somebody and we mentioned, you know, I was like, oh, it's a little warm outside. And what a crazy thing for me to say at the start. Um, when I first experienced the coldness that is in Connecticut, I was crying at 60, 50 degrees.
Well,
Now, when I got a taste of 25, it was like, this is warm. A light jacket's okay for today.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's a Texas tough thing, I guess.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
yeah,
so.
yeah.
They got a taste of it too.
Because I know I bundle up. Yes, I know Texas is getting there.
Yeah.
Their piece too. Yes, I don't mind the cold at all. It's part of being from Connecticut, and it's crazy that we got as much snow as we did all at once. But that's not a first time. That's not a first time for anybody, unless you were just born in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice to have the snow out there, and it'll go away. It'll be gone.
Yeah.
Days are getting longer. Everything's getting better.
We'll just real quick, just really, really quick, just it sparked a question. How did Bristol handle as a collective this recent snowfall?
The recent snowfall.
Yeah.
I think we did fine.
Mm.
I mean, it's never going to be perfect.
Hmm.
You got to put the snow somewhere.
Yeah.
So you're going to find it in odd places. But I go for walks still during the day, and most of the people around here have shoveled off their walks, and the streets are pretty cleared. So I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you just handle it. It's like, okay, there's lots of other things going on in the world you could be upset about.
Yeah. No, listen, today, we're going to be talking Bristol, specifically about one person. Yes, you know what? We're going to do it. We're just going to do it. We're going to talk about one person in this city, and I'm going to call him out, and I'm calling him out right now. Please respond, David Fortier.
Hey, I didn't see that coming, Aaron, but
No.
I knew we were having a conversation today.
Yeah, and the reason why I wanted to talk was, listen, I wanted to just how we, what is TBE? Why did you create it? How did you create it? Who's David Fortier? As people are listening in to our weekly shows that we've added, our bi-weekly show that we added, we get to bring in our guests. They get to talk about, some of the issues, or whether it's political or an event or promotion for something, but what the essence of TBE is. And we're going to ask some in-depth questions.
Yeah. It's difficult for me to talk about it and to focus on myself. Because even from the beginning of this project in local newspapers, local online newspapers, the idea was this was not something I was going to do alone. That if I were going to take something on like this, I would have to have people who were along for the ride and willing to kind of work along with me, because the project is not about me. It's about Bristol. I'm a Bristol person. I love Bristol. Bristol's a big part of my life. If you go to my former workplace and ask people what they think about Bristol, they will come back and talk about all the things that I have to say about Bristol, that I love about Bristol.
Mm-hmm.
Bristol's not perfect. I know that. But one of the things about Bristol that makes it Bristol is we still have a very big sense of community, despite what's been happening with social media and people living in the silos that they're in. We still have that sense here, but it's a fragile sense, and it has stripped away, and sometimes the memory is stronger than the reality in a lot of ways.
Okay.
So my feeling is that one of the things that makes a community, makes a town, makes a city, because we are a city. We're 60,000 people. Is a community newspaper, is a newspaper. And I don't think I'm engaging in nostalgia. I think what I'm talking about here is a remedy. We talk about social media. It's not going away. It's here to stay. It's the big tech have, figured out how to get, their how to get into people's brains and to get them online and then to make their dollars off of it. But I don't think the intention of what's happening out there with social media is necessarily one to bring people together. It's to divide people.
Yeah, okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to take it back.
Okay.
Let's take it back to the basics.
Take it back to the beginning.
David, why did you so you're in journalism. why did you get involved? Because you grew up in Bristol.
Yeah.
What made you get involved in and really quickly, what made you get involved in journalism? And how did that change from being involved in journalism to I want to create a local
Yeah.
newspaper?
I get philosophical about this, and I know I'm a person who learns in circles. I circle a subject before I get there. It's hard for me to go directly at it. But with journalism, I have a story. When I was in, it goes back to high school. When I was in high school, I can remember saying that I was going to be a person, and I am a person. I'm a writer. I'm a writer. I've written novels. I've written poetry. I've written. I'm working on plays now, despite all the journalism thing. I'm a creative person, and that's where it started. But I can remember in high school thinking that newspaper, who would want to be on the newspaper where you just write things about things that are happening instead of creating something? So that was the last thing that I wanted to do. And here I am now, invested in newspapers. So I went from the creative kind of person into teaching. But I was always writing. And what I did is at one point, I started working for, I started doing some sports stories for the Bristol Press. Now, Bristol Press has a long, venerable history. That's not the case anymore. Bristol Press is not what it used to be, and it's maybe on its own trying to figure out what's going on. We are here because the Bristol Press is not doing what we need them to do as a community newspaper. That's one of the reasons that we started this publication. But so from there, I did some journalism working for the Bristol Press. I did some work for them, and then I ended up working for a small weekly newspaper,
Mhm.
and that's where I cut my teeth on journalism. Just so happens it was with the Archdiocese of Hartford, and it was a Catholic publication. And after a few years, I became the editor in chief.
Mhm.
And that's when I really fell in love with journalism. Church is not the greatest environment to talk about, like, freedom of speech and freedom of the press, but there is something to be said um, to be in that environment and have to think carefully about what you're doing and what journalism means, because at different times you have to justify what you're doing. And so, what was the justification? Well, people knew what was going on. People had a voice, and they could count on us to accurately give them information.
Mhm.
And so that doesn't change anywhere you are. But the whole idea behind that is there's a responsibility that comes from being a journalist. So that's when I cut my teeth, and then from there, I went on to start another publication online. And then in 1999, some friends of mine and I got together, and we started a weekly newspaper here in Bristol, because then I could see what was happening to the Bristol Press. And the story I tell, and I'm pretty sure this is this is accurate, but there's something to this. I can remember when one of the former owners of the Bristol Press came in, and it reassured people that things were not going to change. And then one of the first things they did was let 22 of the pressmen go.
Now, you casually threw in the Bristol Press when you first and me. So from my understanding, that was the local newspaper of Bristol. That was
People
the
love the Bristol Press, and it was the Barnes family was behind that, and that was not the Tom Barnes and the Wally Barneses of the manufacturing people. This is Bart Bartlett Barnes and another family that came up from New Haven and started this paper a long time ago. So it was a family newspaper. And family newspapers, again, this is nostalgia, I guess, in Connecticut, especially in central Connecticut where we were. The newspapers then had a penetration of 88 to 90% of the households. It was a hopping thing, and really a great thing to do. So people who were involved with the newspaper not only read the newspaper, but there were people in the community that were because they hired so many people, they were involved in all different aspects of what was going on in the community.
How many people would you say were here
Oh,
at the time? Was it
you mean as a town,
as a
as a
town?
city?
Yeah.
Oh, we were around 60,000 for a long time.
Oh, really? I would say I think it makes a difference, right?
So yeah. So I think the numbers of people might have been the same, but so The Bristol Press is like, just to give you another story about that. I mean, I delivered the Bristol Press when I was a kid. I was a newspaper boy.
Was it like you tossed it
Yeah,
into
we had my bag,
into-
and we went out and I delivered the newspaper. I had my customers, and then I collected my money, and then we took it down to the Bristol Press, the old Bristol Press, and Charlie Poole was there, who was a circulation manager, and he had a change machine, and we would put our money in there, and he would bill us for our papers. It was just, we were entrepreneurs, and that was my first experience with business. And what was the great part about that is not only did I do the newspaper, but from that I built my own lawn service, and I built my own snow shoveling service because my customers trusted me. And so when I need to cut a lawn, I could go cut their lawn.
Just a businessman, just wanting to get involved immediately.
Well, it was a very natural kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
But I remember, even as a kid, I remember being upset about things and writing letters to the editor. So that was kind of it was a place that was accessible. And then another great story was the people who were at the press, and I hope we are the same way, as we develop and become the community newspaper, which I think we are right now. I mean, if you want to look for news about Bristol, this is the place to come.
Yeah, and I'm gonna pause there and get into just take it a little bit deeper. So, listen, I don't understand a lot of, I think this is a great town. I know we hear it over and over again. You say it, we hear, the politicians say it. You hear people in the city say it. I love Bristol. I love Bristol. I've been here for a short time. I can say I do love Bristol. It's just something about it. But the thing is how is such a town that everyone loves so much? So there's a lot of I would say toxic conversations happening on
Well,
social media,
yeah.
and where it feels divided between two parties. I'm just gonna say you have the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. The two just don't like each other.
Yeah, I mean, as a journalist, that's what the way it is, and you try to present the news in a straightforward manner that reflects that reality. But we don't harp on that kind of thing.
And that should be
you get that in
different.
you get that in social media.
Yeah.
It's like, we want to stay with issues, and I think that's one of the reasons that. I mean, of course, my wife Mary is the state representative, and she's a Democrat, and so people assume that because she's a Democrat, I take a position on these different things. Basically, my bias is democracy. If we want to have a democratic country, we need to have a public forum where people can trust the news that they're getting, not because we say so, but because they look at our track record. We have, since we started the Bristol edition, just a few stories trickling in 2016. We're celebrating our 10th anniversary this year in June of the first articles that were published. As these stories, they trickle in, and I kind of lost my thought right there. I've got it back. We've published over 8,500 stories. Now, some of them are just, weekly meeting stories. I mean, actually a list of weekly meetings. Other ones are covering, important issues that are that are breaking. I mean, we got the Hoppers Birch Pond, another controversial development going in, and you've got the Friends of the Hoppers that are contesting that. And once again, just last night, there was another meeting of the Inland Wetlands, and they pushed off the decision for another week. We will have a story about that, and we'll have a firsthand story about that. Now, you could go and you could get on video, and you can get to the city, and you could watch the entire video, but that's a large time commitment. If you want to get a general idea of what's going on, you got to go to a trusted source. And so we're the trusted source. So the core of what we do is we cover city government. So we've been here, we've proven ourselves, and this is less on us than it is on people who want to frame a narrative and try to frame us in a certain way. But if you look at, it's like, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's a duck. We're a newspaper, and we're out there, and we're doing our darndest to try to get stories. If people don't want to talk to us and make it look like that we're biased, that's an issue we have to deal with. We're big boys and girls on our team, and we deal with it. But in the end, we have our eye focused on Bristol and bringing news back to Bristol because we think that's really significant to the democratic project.
Mhm.
That makes America America, and we have to be able to speak and talk to each other. So we're always open to talk to anyone. Now, part of what we do is we're news. So some of the things that make news different from social media is we have ethics. So when we started this operation way back in 2016, 17, 18, 19, I was getting my master's in journalism education as a journalism educator. I was out of Kent State, and I worked on that program. And I went there in the summertime, and then I did things online. But part of my what I had a choice to write a thesis or to do a project, and I thought it would be great because I was still looking around and still thinking about what was happening to our local newspaper, and realizing that the financial model, which was to get as much money out of the community as possible and present as little news as possible. Don't one reporter? How does one reporter handle Bristol? Right now, we have 8 freelancers that are working covering Bristol, and we have so much more to do. So,
I know that's a good point. Listen, you said, the freelancers for what it is. How are people so critical of TBE? Because be honest, it's out there.
so you've heard it. I
I've
mean,
absolutely
you've
heard.
heard it. See,
What
I don't go on social
Well,
media.
well, I
I
mean,
don't.
it's aside from social media
Yeah,
and in
yeah,
person from people,
yeah.
about, the Bristol edition is, doesn't let anything go by without the approval of Ellen, and you know David Fortier is, for the
Oh, that's funny.
Democrats, and
Yeah, yeah.
how do you, and that's what's out there. So if you could, first of all, let's respond to that key
Well,
issue.
well,
How do you continue to do what you need to do? And first of all, this isn't a paid gig.
right. Yeah,
You're just trying to inform
I
the
don't get
city.
paid. Right. We
Okay.
pay our freelancers.
And aside from the new multimedia stuff, you haven't
Yeah.
been putting your face on posters or on videos
No.
saying, "Hey, look what I'm doing." You have just been trying to uh put out the news, things that are going on in the city of Bristol.
What the goal was that if people recognized us, that then we would have, and they recognized us as a newspaper and recognized what we were doing and validated that. And then we could approach people as a not for profit. If they thought they like what they're doing, they could actually make a donation, would be less expensive than paying for other papers. And also, what it does is it ensures that everyone gets the paper free. We don't have a paywall. We experimented with a paywall. It didn't work very well, but we've gotten some people who make donations. We've got several people who have made substantial contributions, and the goal is, I guess this might be a legacy project for me, is because I'm not going to be around forever. I don't intend to do this forever, but I want to get this publication on firm footing, so that young people who go to school for journalism can come back to Bristol, and they could possibly work here. And the other thing is we try to work with the schools. We got a project with the Boys and Girls Club where we're working with the kids over there. And one of the fun things is, just yesterday, I used to teach over at Rock Hill High School, and I taught journalism there, and I was the facilitator, and I'm also the Journalism Education Association director for the state of Connecticut. I just got a text from a former teacher who was in touch with a student, and the student works at UConn, and that person is now an editor on the UConn Daily newspaper, and wrote a terrific story about the storms that occurred about 10 years ago down along the Connecticut shore. And I can't remember if that was Sandy, or if that was, I don't remember which one it was, but the student, is picking up the banner and out there, and making journalism work. So that's it. There's no reason why a community like Bristol can't support a newspaper. It's just sometimes people get a little bit confused about the word not for profit. Not for profit doesn't mean we aren't a business. We're not viable. We don't have costs. We, really, when we are in our place and we have the right people in place, it's going to cost a couple $100,000 a year to make this work. But when you split that up between 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 Bristolites who are paying a contribution of $10 a month, that is very doable. That works.
And I think the climate of Trump and the whole attack the media has given people like this free sense of, hey, let's attack what this person's doing. It just so happens to be in the field of media. If I wouldn't go up to an artist, and wouldn't go up to an artist and
You
be
wouldn't do
like,
that to Bad Bunny?
oh, no,
Well,
we're
Kid Rock's taking issue with that.
well, Kid Rock and kick rocks, don't bother me none. And I do what I think some people should do is just focus on the things you do enjoy, you do like. If people are making a decision, oh, we don't want him here, we don't like it, that's up to them.
Well, I think the key is, and I think I hit on it in the column I wrote this week, is it's not us versus them, you versus me, Democrats versus Republicans. It's we are Americans, and as Americans, and this is the thing I had where I had the breakthrough with Americans is, whether you voted for Trump or not, the American people voted for this president. So it's the American people have to decide what's going to happen. It's got to come back to us. We can't rely on the courts necessarily. They move too slowly. We can't rely on Congress because it gets weighed down because of all the infighting that goes on or taking sides and politics. I don't think, politicians, I think, are good people and they mean well, but they get stuck just like anybody else. And they need someone that's accountable to remind them of their place. And their place is to, serve, and their place is to govern. That comes right back down to city government. So, I mean, we have ethical standards. And this is where I get excited about journalism. Even when we went back to Bristol today, I was involved with that with David Lepore and Dawn Ledger. And we had a good run for 3 years. We were doing really good work. But we had a standard, a very high standard for covering people, and people don't have to realize that there are certain things that we abide by. Like, I could talk about these things all the time, but we started essentially because Bristol had something that was missing, and it was something that I think is essential to community. It's a place we have a general interest newspaper that covers the people in town, so that you not only know who the politicians are who are making decisions, so you can contact them and have something to say that's just not yelling at them. And for sports, you have the names of the kids again who are playing. You have an idea of who's who. Just anecdotally, I remember my dad always felt comfortable talking to any of the editors, and he had a 6th grade education. And so I remember he knew that I was interested in writing. So he had no qualms about approaching the editor of the Bristol Press, Lou Bachman, knocking on his door and saying, "Hey, my kid wants to write." And so,
hell yeah.
And so Lou said, "Bring something." So I brought him a short story. And the man, I know what it is to be an editor. I know how busy you are.
Mm-hmm.
And he stopped everything and he read the story and he critiqued my story. He sat with me. That's the heart. So Bristol's people. Anywhere you have people, there's that possibility. And yet in Bristol, we have been shaped. And that's something that I think is critical to a newspaper. Our job is not to make people feel good, but to be happy.
But here's my question on the ladder here. You need the community support to do well.
Right.
So that's one. But when you, and maybe this is a question and a statement at the same time, what do you do when a town like Bristol, yes, 60,000 people, but when in the world that you're covering, which is media, there's a lot of politicians and business people, and people of the community leaders, community activists, in a city like Bristol, where that's a limited amount of people.
Yep.
And you need the backing of the community, but there's a story about someone in the community that you got to cover it. You got to be the bad guy,
so that's
or the good guy.
That's what I love about community news, is because as a reporter, as a journalist, you're accountable. The people you write about are the people you see. You have to be able to do that, and that adds a certain quality. That's why you need to have ethical guidelines, so you can say to them, "Well, okay, I would, we wrote this story for these reasons." Now, I mean, one of our standards is we minimize harm. We don't think, we're human. We don't want people we're not going after anyone. We have to justify a story. And if anyone is going to be harmed by that, and one of the anecdotal things is, and I know we're winding down, is that one of the things that journalists do is that there's no rule that says you cannot name a minor in a newspaper article, but the general tenor and the agreement among journalists and professionals is you don't do something like that because you may jeopardize the future of that young person if someone were arrested or they were involved in
An
some kind of
integrity
intrigue.
thing.
It's an integrity thing. So as a journalist, you're also, and people might interpret that as being biased. You are looking out for the best of the community. You're not taking stories on just because you have to fill up that page, just because people are bored. You are trying to find things to write about that are of substance. And I think what you do and we do is we raise the tenor of the conversation so that people realize they don't have to be yelling at each other anymore. That there's more important things to focus on. There are issues in the city we need to deal with, like homelessness, or if you've got an issue with the Board of Education, or you've got something that's going on, on your street. I mean, potholes. I mean, it's like these are things we need to deal with every day, and we also need to feel that we belong to a community and that we also can make a contribution. Write letters to the editors. We can send. If you have information, you can talk to your council people in a way that is it's informative, so that you are all working on a problem rather than creating a problem. You don't have to have the same politics to work on a problem and come up with a solution on the city level.
Mhm. So, and here's a question for you. Back to, because I just really want to know, because it's a great place to be. A lot of good things happening. I just can't think in my head, in my brain, to myself, and I don't know politics that well. Let's
Yeah.
get started there. I'm not no expert there at all. I just go on what I feel in my heart, how I get treated, what I see in my surroundings.
Yeah.
And there's a number of people in this community who I really enjoy, and it's not about their political affiliation. It's that they were just really nice to me in a time when I moved all the way across the country
Yeah.
for my job, and they treated me really, really well, and on a friend level.
Yeah.
So my question to you is how do you continue to tell the stories that you need to tell while combating for people? Oh, he's only writing this story because he's a Democrat, or he's only writing it because he's married to Mary, or how do you combat that, and to put people know, like, listen, this is my separate business. This is what I enjoy. I'm a journalist.
Well,
And,
I think people are smart enough to make that distinction.
well, we've seen on
Well,
social
but I think
media.
they're smart enough so that they know that if they're making that distinction, they must be getting something out of it. So that's playing into their agenda. That's not playing into our agenda. Our agenda is to kind of like it's to straight and steady, and we have the long range goal of bringing to Bristol high quality news.
Yeah, and I think that's the beautiful part, is that, I'm just trying to showcase some really cool stuff that Bristol has to offer, and any of my skill sets or assets that I could have can
Yeah,
help contribute to that cause of elevating the city of Bristol
yeah,
and enjoying the city.
right,
Then I'm using it, like the media stuff that we're doing,
yeah.
some of the coverage that we're doing, some of the sporting events that we're doing.
Well, yeah, it's true. It's true.
It's less on, oh, let's see what's going on to tear it down. It's more for me, uh as I'm learning with the city, learning how it operates and learning different businesses, we should all be sharing that
Well,
together.
that's it's community newspaper. I mean, basically, 90%, 99% of the stuff that we do is not critical stuff.
Mhm,
It's just letting people know about things that are happening in the community and doing it according to these rules. We have to make sure that people
mhm,
are accountable. In cities where there's no newspaper, that government gets a little slack.
mhm.
So we make people accountable just by the fact that we're around, and we saw a change in that over the last couple of years when we were covering City Hall.
Mhm.
It got to the point where our newspaper person was there, and people started to sit up straight and and kind of answer questions and realize the things that they were saying were they had to be held accountable for. They just couldn't talk loosely. They had to talk, and they had to talk in such a way that it was directed towards, like I'm saying, the issues.
They should be doing that anyway, but
Well, yeah, but you know what? You need someone. I mean, it's true. We're all human. We're not perfect. People get lazy or they have agendas, and it's if no one's watching, the tendency is to kind of get what you can get, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's we're human, and we're better when we're part of a community. We're better when people are kind of like looking out for us, and that we're trying to make a difference. And so our stories don't focus a lot on that infighting, because the real stories are ones that have to do with issues that people are interested in. And when you talk about like the people who are infighting, the people making all the noise, that's a small group of people. Bristol's this big, and the hope is that these people out here, if they slow down and they see who we are, and they kind of join what's going on, they'll understand, and they might want to take part in that, become a reader or a donator. But that's the goal. If we stay to what we do, it's not exciting stuff, and our job is not to promote Bristol, but by virtue of doing our job, Bristol gets better. Mm-hmm. So that's not our goal. Our goal is to make sure that we maintain our democracy. We maintain our. I mean, it's hard to talk anytime now about saying something, say institutions. It's coded. I mean, it's so I'm trying to come up with a language where people can get to the ground level and be able to speak to each other about issues. And so maybe we can crack that here in the local level. That's why we're just Bristol. Mm-hmm. We are Bristol because I think local is significant.
And on the Avenue, the show that that I have going on every 2 weeks, we may not promote, but we will bring on and allow people to freely talk about what they want to talk about.
Or be themselves, yeah.
And be themselves. And so I want to talk about their business and put it out there. Yeah. By all means, no restrictions. I love the freedom of free speech, and that's why I would love to have more conversations with people in the city. But if I'm being honest, it's a little hard sometimes. Which is I don't get. I'm a people person, and which is fine. You don't want to talk to me. That's not the problem. Yeah. But I would love to get. I've always been a two sides guy. Like, okay, learning about this and learning about this overall. CNN, Fox. I'll just say it. I watch CNN, I watch Fox, and I've always in my whole life, I've always liked to be neutral and just learn from a neutral perspective. But how do you know what your neutral perspective is?
Well, here's the distinction you made, is that on a national level, mm-hmm. you almost are backed into a corner, and you have to talk about people in sweeping terms. You have to talk about liberals, progressives, conservatives, and you've got to label people, because it's a quick way to get your story out there in a summary. In a local place, you don't need to use labels like that. You want to know where people are. You want to respect them for the choices they make and the parties they belong to or the positions that they take. But you have a name of a person. There's a difference. You can be individualized, and you can see the people as not part of a larger group, but as an individual. And that's the beauty of local.
Is that what? And my question is that the reality of what's happening? Like it sounds great, and when you put it that way, but I wonder, is that the society that we're currently living in, where that doesn't translate to the local level?
It is so. There's so much mitigating and militating against that, because people will take some of that national conversation, and they will start to look at their neighbors as X, Y, or Z,
absolutely,
instead of their neighbor.
Absolutely.
And I'm not trying to fix that. I'm not the person who has all the solutions and answers. All I have is this little job to do. It's just to get people to see each other as human beings, and to look at some of the issues that are happening in town and make sure there's some accountability, and to do it in a way where we verify it, so that we give them a little bit of space to deliberate and be themselves and really think about, geez, that judgment I had, is that really accurate? Is that the person I really know? And and this is here in my town. And so people have reputations. They care about their reputations. And so what we do is, as a newspaper, we're curated, People are making decisions about what goes in the paper. Sure. And that's the first thing what people will say is, oh, it's biased. But no, it's biased towards democracy. What do we need to know to be a democracy? And I'm really curious, did we get any people saying anything on our chat that they have any questions for us about?
Someone we had Jerry Wardell here. I'll put it up on the screen. He said, where do you find the reporters who freelance for you, and how long can you keep them? Trying to do something similar, Massachusetts town where I live. Well, I don't know how long you can keep them. They're people, but
Well,
but I get what he's saying.
You're right. Okay, we've started. We've had interns.
What's your process?
We've had interns from Yukon, Central Connecticut, and we've kind of lucked out, because what happens is those young people get excited about working for us, and they do. We have one person right now who's interning or actually working for WNBC. Is that in a news station in right here in Connecticut? So I mean, it's like we make that connection. So we had them come in, and then what she does is she says she has such a good experience with us that she has recommended us to 2 other writers. So we have about 8 writers right now who are at different stages of development. One, for instance, has come back, written for us, and now works full-time in another industry, but is on call and would like to do some writing for us. We've got others who are in journalism school right now, and they're with us right now. So we're early on in our development, but if we would create a good relationship, that's one way we get reporters. Now we have other people. I mean, the person who is our star by far, and I mean, he has more experience than any of us is Mike Chaikin, who was just tremendous. And I think we lucked out with Mike. He's so committed to journalism. He is a journalist, and he has been here for a long time. He has a great reputation. He has great name recognition. And that was because, the journalism industry, got to a point where it let him go. And so we were around. And so that's how we picked him up.
Yeah.
So we look for freelancers. We try to develop a relationship. They're non-employees, but we do invite them on a regular basis to get together and to have conversations about how we're going to do things. And of course, as freelancers, they can refuse any kind of assignment that we have for them. So that makes it difficult, and that's why we want to be able to get to the position where we're viable. And this is our 10th anniversary year, where we're going to make a pitch and try to bring in some more money to be able to afford to keep those young people on, because that's not just a dream. That's something where kids in Bristol grow up and they see we have an active newspaper. They see they have kids here who went to their schools, who went to college, and they come back and they're working for us, and maybe they want to do the same thing.
There you go, Jerry.
Right,
hope that be answered. And also, I was going to say this: it's a moment in time. So, to have that. I mean, who didn't want to have that? I mean, when I played football back in high school, who didn't want to have that paper, that news clipping, right? Of got this many yards or this many touchdowns. Didn't really happen for me.
Or tackles,
but,
or blocks, or key blocks, or however it worked.
Yes. But that to have it on your wall, or these are moments in time, and what you do can very much change the outcome of of a young person's life, or an adult person. Maybe give them that extra motivation, or look, somebody sees me. You go out to a local business and you cover something that they're doing or an event that they're having, and they feel seen, and all the hard work that they're putting in, the countless hours, the time away from their family, and maybe this one article be like, wow, I finally feel seen, can change and give them more confidence. So that's just one little tidbit in all the work that you do with TBE. And last question, because we are running out of time. What's your vision for TBE in the future?
Well, the vision is to be a newspaper, whatever form that takes. I mean, with you coming on as a volunteer, and Angelo, I mean, that has expanded our horizon, because this is something I never, ever imagined doing, is even having a live stream like this. And when we ever did that live stream, of election night, that was just like,
Let's talk
it
about
was
that.
terrific. That was like, we had thousands of people who watched that coverage.
That deserves a conversation
And
because
yeah,
it was a last minute thing. We looked at the equipment, and let me tell you, folks, we didn't really have the equipment. Okay. We had a few webcams, a
Yeah.
laptop, and an idea.
and some phones.
And but I think
Yeah.
that's the good thing about it is amateurs how new that we started and we starting off.
Yeah.
That made no sense, but it is what it is. Is that the reason why, similar to why you have TV, the reason why we were doing it wasn't for the aesthetics.
No.
It was for the information. It was for hey, we don't want to wait for the local news station the next day to give the results. We should be able to get them immediately or as they come in with due process, right? Like other towns do or other big cities do. And if we could have those numbers right away, and however it looked,
Well,
trying to stall.
The other thing about
You
that
were good
too
at
is-
stalling, though. You
Yeah,
did a really good job at that.
we had fun that night. I was part of it was because I was simply amazed. I mean, we had two young reporters out in the field with their phones reporting from the polling stations and then going to the headquarters. And the whole night it was drama. So if you were just think you're a young kid and you're always talking about people voting and the significance of it. I mean, just the visual impact of having us on for a local election, having us on for 5 hours straight. The kid picks up on that. This is important stuff. It's important to vote. So we weren't teaching any lessons, but a takeaway from that whole thing is if the whole community is focused on this, it's important. This may be something I should find out about. So, but that night was just like, well, we had a pizza. The reporters came in and we said, this is what we're thinking of doing. And they're like, okay, we'll give it a shot. And so they went out there and of course the penguin was a big hit. We had the humidifier in the background.
Yeah, you can't forget the penguin.
Can't forget the big one.
All right, David, we're not going to keep up too much time, but we do want to say, do you have any announcements? What's coming up on TBE? And what do people look forward to seeing? When's our next show?
We've got in the newspaper, this, the budget workshops are happening right now. So you've got your town coverage, you've got your city coverage. So we got those stories. We've got what's going to happen with the Burge Pond and the hoppers. So those are significant stories that are happening right now. We also have, our live streams, which we've got to coordinate between the website and the actual promotion to let people know what's happening. But we have the Avenue, which Aaron does every other week. And it's more of a fun, informal get to know somebody in Bristol. We have Talking Bristol, which is with me, which we hope to deal with more policy issues. Like for instance, tonight we had Jillian Gilchrist, who is a Democrat who's challenging John Larson, and for the U.S. First District House of Representatives. And she was supposed to be on tonight, and she postponed. We'll have her on next week. We had Luke Bronin on, and we had another challenger with Fortune on.
And two great conversations. Really good. Like just listening, I learned a lot. And be able to just ask a question from the people's perspective, and listening to you ask the questions from a policy perspective and a government perspective was really awesome to have, and to be able to continue those conversations is amazing.
And so that's one thing that we hope to do. And then the other thing is we have coming up, we're doing our sports coverage. We're going to be covering a Bristol Central, Bristol Eastern, or Aaron's going to be covering and producing that show. And
Bristol Game Time,
and
calling it Bristol Game Time.
Bristol Game Time, which is coming up on February 11th. So there will be a pre-game, there'll be a post-game, and then there will be the coverage of the wrestling match between Bristol East and Bristol Central, which again goes back to another experiment where we broadcast, you live streamed the Thanksgiving Day football game between Central and Eastern, crosstown rivals. It doesn't get any better than that.
And to your point, what you were saying, it's great. I have to say, this is, I was at a meeting today, a production meeting today with some of the talent that we're going to have for the wrestling match. And they were mentioning, seeing the football game live stream, which I thought, I was like, oh man, this went horrible because I'm looking at all this production stuff, the lack of equipment that we had. Thankfully, we had help from Seymour Media to assist us,
Yeah,
but
and the city was
uh,
helpful
but
too. Yeah,
but
yeah,
but again, the reason for doing it trumps over the lack of quality that we didn't have trying to stitch this together, because people wanted to see it.
yeah,
And I know today in the production meeting, we saw what was possible with the football game.
yeah,
We want to do this for wrestling too.
yeah, yeah.
So to your
It's
point
tremendous.
earlier,
Yeah,
someone's listening, someone's watching, and like, I want
yeah,
to do
yeah.
something like that.
And we can do it. And and the goal is that the Bristol edition is here. We've been here for 10 years. We're going to be promoting ourselves this year. We will be looking for people to become members who are, it's kind of everyone's familiar with the public TV and public radio and making donations. And that's what we are. We're a not for profit and we're incorporated under the Central Connecticut Online Journalism Project. The idea behind that is that if other communities like what we're doing and we can model for them, maybe they can pick up and do the same thing. But we've got to do this on a nickel. We started this, and one of the reasons we were able to do it because I've been through the profit, the for-profit route with Bristol Today, and with the equipment and the online services. While it's not print, which I just adore, it is still information, and it's online. Our print stories now we have multimedia, so our future I think is very bright, and we have to and we depend on people to recognize this and try to figure out how they want to support us. I mean, if you're a reader, that's terrific. Subscribe to our newsletter. If you are someone who's been reading most of our stuff, acknowledge us with maybe a donation. I'm not very comfortable asking for money, but I think it's the only way we have to go. And again, it's not for me, it's for our future. And it's to institute something in Bristol that will be here and that will be here year after year after year that's committed to journalistic ethics and ideas. I know that's not sexy. It is, simply, reporting accurately and truthfully, being accountable, verifying information, minimizing harm, and also not making people accountable, but you being accountable by being part of a community where you have to face the people that you write about. So I think our future is bright, and we have lots of things going on. We are affiliated now with a national organization, the local independent online newspapers, and they have given us tremendous support. And so we are creating our future in the back office, so to speak. And we have a new website that's going to be coming on soon within the next couple of months, where we are trying to help people navigate us a little bit easier and to have a little bit more of attractive presence on the website. So, I mean, I can literally talk about this for hours. I don't know if I actually answered your questions,
Yeah.
Aaron.
We're gonna have a lot of fun. See, and that's a good thing. Is a little bit of everything, right? Uh, we're gonna we're gonna be talking Bristol. What's going on in the city? The good, the bad, the ugly, the fun. But we're gonna have a good time too. We're gonna be covering games, events. There's a lot of beautiful things to cover, and just maybe dive in a little deeper into it, like the Mum Festival.
Yeah, and we
Um,
will be doing that, and it just takes time. And we're allowed if we're around long enough that those things they will come.
yeah.
We don't have to force them. It's just a natural part of the progression. And I would forgive myself if I forgot to mention Laura Bailey and Jack Krampitz, who've been here for these last years, and Jack since the beginning, and Laura very shortly after we started, and everyone else who's been involved.
And Laura's the best. I really like Laura.
She's our news editor right
We
now.
did the pregame for Bristol Eastern versus Bristol Central. And it was just so much fun working with her
Yeah.
and talking to her and just seeing how she operates, her style of
She's terrific.
journalism.
And she has a degree in journalism, so
Yeah.
that's so she is, and her photography is outstanding. So I'm hoping to do something like that right now. But now she's in the editor's chair.
And I'm dying to get Jack on. I'm dying to get Jack on.
Yeah.
He's a funny guy. I very comedic, and I just enjoy that kind of banter.
Yeah.
I enjoy laughing and having a good time.
It's great.
Hence the avenue. every 2 weeks. Next week, it's on next week. Actually, no, we're not on next week because we're doing the
We got the
the
match,
wrestling match.
right?
All right,
Yeah, game
David.
time.
Anything else you want to say before we go?
I don't know. Did we acknowledge people there?
Yeah, no, we covered it. I just
Okay.
I want to ensure that. Oh, by the way, nice living room.
Oh.
It's a really nice. I can't see I was trying to see what those photos were in the background. Couldn't really tell.
Yeah.
But no. Thank you for joining me. Or I guess I should thank myself for joining
Yeah,
you.
for joining me. Yes,
For joining you.
And
This
I'm
is
learning this, so this is terrific. This is just great. Yes. So I want to thank everybody who tuned in, or anybody who watches this video at some point. If you have any issues or questions, you can always reach me at editor@bristoledition.org, or you can also reach me at D40 or at bristoledition.org. If you're interested in doing some, of exploring working with us, just reach out. If you have tips or ideas about stories that are out there, just send those over. We have a tip line, and one of us will see that. One of us editors will see that at one point or another. And if you have any suggestions for us, how to make this thing work better, just let me know. And at some point this year, we will have some community engagement opportunities where we get groups of people together to discuss issues that the community faces and look for solutions. So we've got lots of things going on. So I'm very hopeful about the future, and I hope that you are willing to come along with us, and you will join us, and not in an uncritical way. You can be critical. That's fine. Critical is part of being human. We're not perfect. We don't pretend to be perfect, but we aim to do the best we can all the time.
Sounds good. And don't forget to like, comment, share. Thank you, Jerry, for chiming in and asking a question. We want more engagement. We want you to ask the questions. We're here for you. But make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Like us on Facebook. Want to get those viewers up, right? And join us next time. That's Talking Bristol. Good night.
Good night. Good night, Aaron.
Good night, David.